Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. XRP holders are suing Coinbase. And in the lawsuit, which has been filed, there are allegations of actual outright fraud and also damages to the tune of millions of dollars. This lawsuit was brought about by an individual holder of XRP, and it seeks to be a class action lawsuit. And the actual legal complaint, and here I got the dead trees of my little Moon Family Sedan fingers right now. The legal complaint was filed by Fred Rispoli, who I'm sure you're familiar with at this point in time because he's been chiming in so much and sharing his useful perspective and thoughtful perspective regarding the SEC v. Ripple case. But Fred Rispoli, attorney within the XRP community, is the one that filed this legal complaint. And I wanted to cover this thing yesterday, but it's 21 pages, and not that that's a crazy amount of pages, but I did not have time to read this yesterday. I had a dinner date with a girlfriend that I was not about to break, but I did have time to read this in its entirety today. And so I did what I typically do when it comes to these legal documents. I printed it up, and I highlighted the parts that I found to be most interestingly, that's not a word. I highlighted the parts that I subjectively found to be most interesting and relevant here. And look, I've made my perspective pretty clear. I've been public about this on my channel and on Twitter, that, you know, from a legal perspective, I've never had clarity, because I'm not a lawyer, on whether or not any laws potentially were broken regarding Coinbase not handing over the Songbird airdrop to XRP holders, which was sent out in September of 2021 now, been a long time. And then the way that they've also approached the Flare airdrop by still not handing out, and mind you, it's been over a week at this point since Coinbase received the Flare airdrop. So there, you know, my stance has been, as it pertains to the Songbird airdrop, when Coinbase agreed to distribute the Flare airdrop to XRP holders that had XRP on their platform during the snapshot date, I understand that Coinbase didn't know that a Songbird token, which is a separate token, would be occurring, and so I said, look, I don't know from a legal perspective whether or not there's any sort of implications there. Now, Attorney Rispoli says very clearly there are, and I'm going to share with you his arguments for why. He says very clearly there are, but my stance, even before this lawsuit, before I even knew the lawsuit was going to happen, says I don't know from a legal perspective, but if you just look from an ethics perspective, I get it. It's unfair that for Coinbase to be put in a situation where they didn't know they'd have to distribute this token. From a technical perspective, unfair. But it's also unfair to XRP holders who also didn't know that they had their, their XRP on a snapshot on a platform that might not distribute the token. Like, they didn't know it either. So it's unfair to both. And so in this instance, I just, like, from an ethics perspective, even setting aside the legality, which is what I'll spend the rest of the video talking about, from an ethics perspective, in terms of what is right and wrong, I don't see how you can look at Coinbase and, as some people have done in our community, said, Coinbase, no, this isn't fair to them. They're the victim. I'm like, whoa. Even if it's not fair to them, why are you more so focusing on this publicly traded company and the injustice towards them versus the everyday XRP holder who was also in an unfair situation? Nobody asked for this situation. Everybody was forced in it. But what about the XRP holders? Why are the urge from some people in our community, even influencers within our community, why the urge to jump in and defend Coinbase? Because again, I'm not even talking at this point from a legal perspective, although we're going to now. But before sharing additional specifics of what's going on here, do me clear, I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. Here's the actual legal document, and we're going to jump down to, let's see, page 3 and start at the top. And I did have to make a lot of decisions in terms of what to call, because I have the urge, I want to cover literally every single word every time I get one of these legal documents, but I'm like, okay, well, it's going to take 2 hours. So it's like, how do I make the right subjective decisions to chop it down? So it really is subjective, what I think is most interesting and relevant here. But I'm for the sake of time, I'm doing what I can here. So anyways, let's jump down to, as I said, I went a little bit too far. Page 3 here, and at the top, let's start right here. So check this out. And so this is, again, written by XRP community member and attorney Fred Rispoli on behalf of an XRP holder. And ultimately, this is supposed to be a class action thing. So it's supposed to be anybody. Any of you out there that had your XRP on Coinbase for the snapshot, the flare snapshot back in December of 2020, you're lumped in with this. Anyway, reads as follows. Unlike the largest digital asset exchanges that likewise participated in the Flare airdrop and lawfully distributed SGB, so that's Songbird and Flare, to its users, such as cryptocurrency exchanges Uphold and Kraken, Coinbase refuses to distribute plaintiffs' SGB and Flare tokens, despite having received them from Flare Network at the time of the SGB and Flare distributions. In doing so, defendants have unjustly converted the property of plaintiff, in addition to breaching California's unfair competition law and committing several other tortious acts as set forth below. Yeah, and so we'll just pause to note that Coinbase is headquartered in California in San Francisco, actually, here. So it's under law specifically out there. Anyway, Fred continues. Based on defendants' unlawful actions with respect to Songbird, SGB, and Flare, plaintiff individually and on behalf of the proposed class of all Coinbase customers with accounts holding XRP, plaintiff seeks declaratory relief that he is the owner of SGB and Flare currently held by Coinbase on his behalf, and damages related to losses incurred through defendant's unlawful conversion of plaintiff's SGB and Flare. And again, we're going to get into, it's just doing this in order. We do get to the part where attorney Fred Rispoli argues that from a legal perspective, Coinbase is in the wrong, and they were legally obligated to hand over the Songbird token. And that's where, for me, I find it super interesting, because having literally no legal background whatsoever, I'm just sitting there like, well, all I know is that Coinbase didn't know that Songbird was even going to exist. So do they or do they not have legal obligations? And that's just me literally asking, because up to this point, I didn't know. And Fred Rispoli here, attorney, says emphatically and strongly asserts, oh, yes, they do. Oh, yes, they do have an obligation to hand this over. They are legally responsible to do so. So now I wanted to highlight this under the jurisdiction section. He wrote, the court has subject matter jurisdiction over this action because this case is a class action where the aggregate claims of all members of the proposed class exceeds $5 million, exclusive of interest and costs, and plaintiff and most members of the proposed class are citizens of a state different from defendants. So over 5 million already, and I kind of would have expected that anyway. I mean, if you look at the nature of, like, I didn't actually crunch the numbers myself, but still, if you just think about how much Songbird was worth at the time, even if you look in terms of market cap, and even if only a percentage of that would have been held by a Coinbase on behalf of XRP holders that, you know, had their XRP on the platform of Coinbase during that time, that's still got to be a staggering number. I would have assumed anyway. So that part I'm not terribly surprised. And then that's just with Songbird. Then you throw in Flare on top of that, which has not been distributed. And it really should have been to me, this is inexcusable. And look, I'll highlight this now too. I did want to mention this. And I talked about this back in December when this was in the headlines. This is a headline from Crypto Globe. Coinbase to honor commitment to support Flare airdrop for XRP holders. So again, this is just over a month ago. Now, leading up to that, the founder of Flare, Hugo Filion, he had been noting that they had radio silence from Coinbase for like a week and a half, maybe upwards of 2 weeks, it was something like that. And they couldn't get in touch. And so finally, after that much radio silence, Coinbase ignoring Hugo, he announced on social media, hey, can't get a hold of Coinbase. Are you still going to, participate in the airdrop? Because it's about to happen. We need to talk to you. And then eventually they finally put out a comment like, yeah, we're still going to honor it, blah, 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 this or that. And so again, you can see the degree to which they have no sense of urgency with any of this. They've literally never even, from what I've seen, they've never even publicly acknowledged the existence of Songbird. I don't think, off the top of my head, I can't recall them anyway, having even talked about it. So people are like, are we going to get our Songbird? Are we going to get our Songbird? And Coinbase, radio silence on that. They won't even talk about it, which is completely absurd. You'd think you'd at least explain, if you're not going to hand it out, why you're not going to hand it out. But anyway, so Coinbase, yes, a month ago, they said they're going to hand it out, but why haven't they then done it to this point? I mean, this has been years in the works. It just doesn't make any damn sense. Anyway, so now we're going down to what page was that? Go down to page 9, actually. Yeah, that's what. Sorry. Let me scroll down a little bit because I know some of you prefer to not just listen to the Moon Family Sedan beautiful voice, but also see what he's got on the screen for you. All right. So we're going to jump to this part, line 52. Okay, so check this out. In reality, and deliberately hidden from plaintiff at the time, defendants had no intention of distributing to its customers the Songbird and Flare received from the Flare airdrop. Plaintiff and members of the class, simply as customers holding XRP and Coinbase accounts, were legally entitled to the distribution of their Songbird and Flare within a reasonable time, which would be no later than a few days after the airdrop for Songbird and Flare occurred. And again, folks, Songbird, that was September of 2021. It's been more than a few days. And Flare, it's already been over a week. So this is completely... And there's how many exchanges out there gave it to their customers like inside of 24 hours? There's no shortage of exchanges that did that. Coinbase could have. And they said that they're going to hand it out. I may have highlighted it. I talked about it a month ago, and I may have highlighted it for this video. I just know, but I'll mention it now just in case I didn't highlight it. Coinbase stated that they're going to make sure that the Flare is handed out within the first half a year. But there are major negative ramifications if they do wait to the later end of that. In terms of, well, there's the fluctuations in price. So you're taking away the opportunity of whether to buy, sell, or hold, or I'm sorry, or not buy, not because they're not offering it for sale on the exchange yet, if ever. But in terms of whether or not they're going to move the Flare somewhere and sell it, whether they're going to hold it, like you're taking that decision away from them. And then also there's implications in terms of it being a voting mechanism as part of the actual Flare network, and what it means potentially, because we're waiting to see what I haven't talked about it much recently. But in terms of the future distribution for the rest of the Flare holdings, because not all of it has been airdropped, this could actually impact whether or not you get it. So it's actually a really big deal, and this is not good stuff. Now let me go to page 11. Here we go. And a lot of what I'm skipping over, by the way, it's useful, it's good, but crypto, it's still, even after 14 years, I think it's not really well understood. And so a lot of what's explained in here is like crypto 101 stuff for the judge who may or may not be aware of things that we just take for granted because we're involved in crypto. But also there's a lot of background about, Flare network, XRP, how it related, how it all happened. So make sure the judge is caught up to speed on all the history of it as well. And I'm glossing over all of that, but it was well done. And I'm glad that Attorney Rispoli put it in here. This whole thing is really well done. And then there's this, line 64. Check this out. And this is where we're getting into like the legality, even more so into the legalities of this. Prior to the snapshot, defendants repeated on multiple occasions that they would participate in all aspects of the snapshot in Flare airdrop at all relevant times. Defendants never publicly stated it would limit its participation or withdraw entirely from participation in the Flare airdrop. So pause. If you look from a legal perspective, you can see what's being argued here. From a legal perspective, it seems to me what he's saying is Songbird, it's part of the Flare airdrop. So, it's an aspect. And actually, if you're going to work like that, it'll be real interesting to see what the court allows this to play out. But Songbird would not exist but for Flare existing, and that is a true argument. It's a canary network for Flare. So, again, I don't have a legal background, so I can't speak to that, but I find that to be a very interesting argument. And I was curious as to how Attorney Rispoli was going to approach this. But according to what he's stating here from a legal perspective, and based on what Coinbase has stated, that they participate in all aspects of this, that they're obligated, even as the portion pertains to SGB. Now, it's even more obvious, I think, with what's happening with Flare, with the Flare coin itself, But with SGB, that's the only part where I've seen some pushback from some people in the community for the last almost year and a half at this point. And I've never been able to speak on the legal perspective, and I still don't have like a strong opinion. This is not me saying Attorney Rispoli is wrong. It's literally me saying I find his argument compelling, but I have no additional insight into that. I do find it interesting. Again, he's saying that as part of it. And then he wrote, in September 2021, defendants received millions of the SGB slated for its customers. Since September 2021, despite receiving thousands of inquiries from its customers, defendants have refused to provide their customers with their own SGB. On January 9th, 2023, defendants received millions of Flare slated for its customers. Since January 9th, 2023, defendants have refused to provide their customers with their own Flare and instead have chosen to issue a vague, ambiguous statement that defendants may release its customers' own Flare sometime between now and June 30th, 2023. Yeah. So I remember saying a month ago when they put that out in the news, I'm like, I'm glad that they're still committed to giving the Flare to the intended recipient, and that part, yes, I still am happy about. But I even said then, this idea of it taking potentially till June 30th of this year, 2023, that's redonkulous. I don't know how you can possibly justify this. And all the competing exchanges out there, all sorts of them, not having trouble getting it up promptly, but for some reason, Coinbase can't do it. Might there be a little bit of apathy for some reason? And then the legal complaint continues. There is no physical, legal, or technological impediment that prevents defendants from near instantaneous distribution of SGB and Flare to its customers. Most of defendants' competitor exchanges, such as Uphold and Kraken, recognizing their legal obligations to their customers, have distributed SGB and Flare to their customers shortly after receiving SGB and Flare from network. And so look, setting aside from a legal perspective whether or not Coinbase should have to hand out the SGB, it would be so easy for them to do this. Attorney Rispoli, he is right on this. From a technological perspective, it would be so easy to do this. How can you sleep at night knowing that that was intended for your customer, as they're supposed to be the recipients, but then you, Coinbase, just keep it and you don't even publicly say a word about it? And we're supposed to defend Coin. Like, there are some people, that's why I was saying that at the outset of the video. There are people in our community, influencers, well known, defending Coinbase first before defending the XRP holders who are getting screwed out of this. I cannot relate to that. I absolutely cannot relate to that. I think it's highly regrettable. But it's no skin off their back. And I think part of what I hope I highlighted this too, it's a question of what actually has Coinbase been doing with the Songbird tokens, and for this point, almost a year and a half that they've had it. So what have they been doing with it? Let me go a little bit further here. One sec here. So I need to go to page, looks like 12. Okay, so I just need to scroll down one. All right. Okay, here we go. Right at the top. On its September 2021 distribution, the value of SGB was approximately 32 cents per SGB. At the time of the filing of this action, its value had plummeted to approximately 1 penny per SGB. At its peak, SGB reached a value of 71 cents per SGB. Plaintiff and the class members have therefore suffered a 98% loss in value due to the defendant's tortious acts and continue to incur damages. Further, it is unknown, though will be determined during discovery, if Coinbase sold its customers SGB at the height of its market value. Now, folks, that would be disgusting. And I want to know if the other XRP influencers out there who are defending Coinbase rather than focusing on defending the XRP holders, I want to know if that news comes out that they did sell the SGB, are you going to have the stance that Coinbase is in the right ethically and legally? Is that going to be your stance? Well, it was sent to Coinbase. Okay, so the creator of it intended it to be part of the Flare ecosystem effectively and intended it for the recipients that were holding the XRP during the snapshot, but it went to Coinbase so they can just sell it for a massive profit. Is anybody going to actually defend that? Certainly not from an ethical perspective. I don't see how. And again, it does make you wonder. It gives you pause. What has Coinbase been doing? Are they just sitting on it? To what end? What, to just think if you don't talk about it, the problem goes away? It makes me think of the movie Office Space. You know when they hire, what was the character's name? The squirrely one with the big glasses, the heavyset fellow, and I think his name's Milton. I did not receive a piece of cake. You know that guy? And he sets the building on fire. Oh, by the way, there's spoilers in this for like a 20-year-old movie. Sorry about that. But anyway, remember when they found a problem? There was an employee that was still working there, but he had been fired, but somehow he was still receiving a paycheck. That was Milton. And so then they're like, so did you go tell Milton that he doesn't have a job? And they're like, oh no, you don't get it. We fixed the glitch. He'll no longer be receiving a paycheck. So they fixed the glitch, right? So similarly, is something like that going on here? We fixed the glitch. It's just going to go away. So we're just going to pretend like the XRP holders, they don't even exist. We fixed the glitch. The songbird is ours. They'll just go away, right? Isn't that the theory? You know, Milton stops coming into work and the XRP holders, they stop paying attention. It seems like that. So damn stupid, man. So damn stupid. All right, let's go to... oh yeah, and then the next section right here. I don't feel it necessary to read this part, but he's just talking about how the drop in the flare price, even over the short period of time. You know, distribution of 7 cents went down to 4 cents. I don't know what it is literally today, but anyway. So let's go ahead and jump ahead now to the end. You can kind of summarize this because, like, what's ultimately being asked? You know, what should happen as a result of all of this? Let me go down to the final page, 21 here. And we'll take a look at I'm just going to take a look at a few of the bullet points here, just for the sake of time. So yeah, we'll go to this one right here. Reads as follows: an injunction enjoining defendants. So again, this is what we're asking in terms of, you know, legal remedies here. You know, the prayer for relief, as it's known in legal terms here. So this is just like cut to the chase. What do we want to have done? What are we demanding of Coinbase? What do we want to be done here? And so again, it reads as follows: an injunction enjoining defendants from selling, transferring, or staking SGB and Flare without permission from plaintiff and the class, the legal owners of the SGB and Flare. And again, he's strongly asserting here that this is the claim, and this is of crucial importance. Fred Rispoli, attorney, says that Coinbase is holding the property of XRP holders, period. Now that... I hope he's right. I frankly hope he's right, because again, from an ethical perspective, what should be done, Coinbase isn't doing. So I'll take him at his word, because I have no... I'm not... Again, this is me... I hope it's not sounding like me going against Attorney Rispoli. That is flatly not what I'm doing here. It's literally me saying, I hope he's right. He may very well be right. This is the only opinion I've heard, and when I come to conclusions in life, I prefer to hear, especially if I'm going to have a strong opinion, opposing viewpoints, and then I can come to my own conclusion. I've heard one perspective here, and I find it compelling, and I hope that it's right. But that's the only reason that I'm wording it the way that I'm wording, in case anybody... I don't want anybody to think that I'm like somehow not agreeing or with... No. That's certainly not the case here. Then he said, a judgment awarding plaintiff and the class all appropriate damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Also, a judgment awarding equitable, injunctive, and or declaratory relief as may be appropriate, including but not limited to rescission, restitution, and disgorgement. So, looking for penalties to prevent Coinbase from behaving the way that they've been doing. And if there's actually no law broken here, that freaking sucks, because this is awful and it's unfair for XRP holders. And we'll see how this shakes out. I want XRP holders to get their damn XRP. I'm sorry, their SGB and their Flare. And I'm more optimistic about Coinbase getting the Flare out than I am about the SGB for obvious reasons. It's been almost a year and a half at this point. And by the way, one of my brothers actually moved his XRP in December of 2020 to Coinbase, because from his perspective, that would be the easiest way to get exposure to Flare, during the snapshot period. So one of my brothers did that. I took self-custody, so I don't have to worry about this. But my own brother impacted by this, no less. Not getting the Songbird and just having to sit here and watch as Flare does whatever it does. And because I don't know what he was going to... I don't know if my brother was going to hold it. I don't know if he was planning on selling it, but he should have the right to make that decision for himself, and he's not been able to. And so I'm absolutely sympathetic to anybody out there that hasn't gotten their Songbird and their Flare yet, and I'm very appreciative of Attorney Rispoli bringing the fight to Coinbase, because I am not okay with this behavior. I'm really not. And I cannot relate to the XRP influencers out there in particular that are defending Coinbase. I don't get it. I don't get how you can defend Coinbase, at a minimum, from an ethical perspective. So we'll see what it is. I'll keep you apprised of what's going on as developments unfold, but I am just thankful that Attorney Rispoli is bringing the fight to him. We'll see what happens. But this is good news and heading in the right direction so far as I'm concerned. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.